was the beginning of 2020 when we became a part of an unprecedented epoch of human history. A tragedy that is immediate, real, and it began to unfold before our eyes. Upholding the school ethos of care and compassion for all, we began to reach out to those affected in our immediate community. The first was Seva Samarpan School, a school with which we are sharing resources and looking after since its inception. Resources were gathered and care packages were distributed to the people in community who lost income due to the lockdown. Masks were stitched and distributed to the lesser privileged people of the community. Keeping with the school tradition of giving back to the community on every festive occasion, a unique hand washing station was placed in a busy market area outside the school so that people and passers-by can wash their hands. This was followed by testing and vaccination drive for the school staff and support staff. And just as some of our seniors began coming to school, and we thought it will be over soon, we were engulfed by the second wave of the pandemic. This time, it dramatically changed our everyday lives, and while some of us experienced illness, some experienced losses. A team of dedicated volunteers was formed immediately to help everyone around us in the best possible way. The school opened its kitchen to the staff and families affected. Home-cooked nutritious meals were cooked taking all precautions and delivered to the doorstep by the school support staff. The school even opened its resources to provide help from its infirmary. Oxygen cylinders, pulse oximeters, etc. were sent to the ones who needed them and could not get them due to the shortage of resources. The COVID assistance team worked tirelessly and amplified, arranged for hospital beds, medicine, oxygen requests from staff and students. Dedicated yoga classes for the parents are also being conducted, bearing in mind health and wellness for everyone. As we wait for the second wave of the pandemic to subside, the danger of the third wave looms larger in the minds of everyone, especially with the assumption of young children being at a higher risk. At this juncture, we are delighted to have Dr. Ashok Jainer with us today. The eminent practitioner will give insight into the myths and realities of COVID, the third wave of the pandemic, and causes and prevention of black fungus.
Yesterday, the Delhi government has declared black fungus an epidemic. In Ghaziabad District Hospital, 10 beds have been marked as PICU, and 10-bed prenatal intensive care unit has been earmarked at Santosh Medical Hospital. Private hospitals have also been asked to add PIC units of 10 beds along with plans for 60-bed healthcare facility for children. How do we as educators and families prepare for the third wave? I have the honor of inviting Dr. Ashok Jainer to talk to us and guide school and parent community for the road ahead. Dr. Jainer is often seen on TV as a COVID expert. I invite my colleague, Mrs. Amita Shukla, to talk to us, tell us more about Dr. Jainer and the wonderful work that he's doing in healthcare. Over to you, Amita.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's an honor for us to have Dr. Jainer with us here today. He is a very dedicated, compassionate, and a brilliant psychiatry and evidence-based healthcare from Oxford University. So he is at present, he is also a COVID expert, I was telling you, as he's been continuously monitoring the development and research related to COVID since its outbreak. He and his team of doctors were the first one to find out that 80% are asymptomatic. And his team only suggested that steroids can be used for the treatment of COVID as well. Dr. Jainer has a different philosophy of life, which makes him stand apart. Recently, he has been awarded by the President of India, Dr. Ramnath Kovind, for his exemplary work in health, education, and social empowerment. As you all know, that he is a very popular face, as ma'am also suggested that it's told just now that he's a very popular face in the Indian TV channels, and he is there. He is called upon to give his views as COVID-19 medical contributor. Dr. Jenner has, he has been a very conscientious fighter since his early days. He and his team of doctors had created history in mid-80s in KGMC, now known as KGMU in Lucknow, when he and his team ran a brilliantly well-organized parallel OPD while organizing a 40 days complete strike in support of their demands. The then government was forced to agree to their demands because they got a lot of support from all the sectors of society, including intelligentsia, academicians, and the entire media as well. Dr. Jenner has established a trust, which is MJ Trust, the mission of which is to serve humanity. Trust, they are providing good health and education facilities to the deprived section of the society in the rural areas of Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Kerala, Rajasthan, and Delhi. He's been sponsoring the education of the children right from the early childhood till the time they get a job. And he is also, this has been done not only in India, but also in Africa. Dr. Jenner has been also providing a platform through his trust. He's been providing a platform to the doctors from all of the world to come and discuss about the causes and the implications of COVID and its treatment. And his trust is also supporting and guiding the people regarding the pandemic. So there is a lot to speak about him, but without wasting any more of your time, I would request Dr. Jenner to please share his experiences regarding pandemic and guide us further. Over to you, Dr. Jenner.
Thanks very much for such a lovely introduction and saying so many good words. I say that serving humanity is serving the God. And that's always theme of my life. Now we need to talk about COVID. COVID, I just want to say a few things. Everybody need to know it. That corona is a virus similar to influenza virus. We always get every year, every person get influenza virus during winters. Nobody so far has died because of this virus itself. People are dying because of our own defense system, which is misguided against this virus. So first few days, when it's enter into our body, it multiply, we call it viremia, which is also similar to influenza virus. Within few days, our body try to tackle this, control it. So that's not a problem at all for anybody, just it requires simple paracetamol. Nobody has died because of this multiplication of virus, because temperature is so low, 98, 99. The myth around is every doctors, every patients are trying to bombardment on this virus. So many antiviral which have been developed for different virus are being used for this virus like remdesivir, Fabiflu, Tamiflu. These don't work, don't need it at all because it's not causing any problem. For first 5 days, virus is saying, I'm not going to fight with you. You sit idle, I sit idle. Don't worry about me. Only in 5% cases or 7% cases, our body start reacting to this virus. This is starting second week, 6 or 7 days. Once our body start reacting against it, we call it our own immune system, defense system. Perceive it wrongly, act wrongly, It is like infiltration has taken place on the border of our country, and our border security force misguided. They perceived wrongly there was no infiltrator and they started bombardment. It damaged our own property, our own animals on the border side, our own public. So same is happening in this virus. The key problem is misguided immune system has to be controlled to prevent the life. If we understand this, we give this message to the patient, we give this message to the doctor, don't run after this virus, run after this misguided nervous immune system. At the time when it starts misperceiving and misguided and hyperactivity, we need to shut it down. So far we have a effective medication which is steroid. It controls the misguided immune system very quickly. So if our doctors are trained at the time of when it starts firing, what happened, how we diagnose it, how we clinically check it, then there is no problem. People won't need hospital beds, people won't need oxygen, people won't die. This is the crux to control this problem. So what is happening, doctors are not aware, patients are not aware, and they are reaching to the hospital when 80% our lungs are already damaged by our own immune system. Then it's too late. So that's myth around is most important myth, that we are running after the virus and we are exhausting our energy. We are taking 10-15 tablets for no purpose. Second myth around is people think we are dying because of coronavirus. We are not dying because of coronavirus. We are dying because of our own immune system, own defense system of the body is misfiring. That's important things. Second important is timing is most crucial. If somebody say what is the best advice you can give at this point of time, the timing is most crucial. Don't miss day 5, 6. If it is going to harm your lung, it will start around that time. How to recognize it? Your temperature of body may go very high, up to 101, 102, 103 temperature. Think that time. Now our immune system has become hyperactive. Shut it down, control it. And second, your symptoms may continue for more than 6 days, 5 days. Then think that now it has gone into the lung. That time, contact the right doctor, start the right medication, and the mortality will be very, 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 very less. You will save your life. And educate others, you will save other people's life.
Dr. Saab, am I audible? So I would like to go through this all over again, because as a common person, we think that the first day itself we should go to a doctor. So for the first 5 days, what should we do? Hum kya kare to protect ourselves and our loved ones?
Yeah. There was a time 2 weeks ago, or up to a few days ago, I used to get more than 100 telephone calls from India. I was supporting so many groups. Our trust was working 24 hours. And I used to get so much irritated when people were buying a coronal kits, 13 tablets, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, ford, Fabiflu, Tamiflu, doxycycline, azithromycin, useless. You go to villages every year, they go to influenza. How many of them they get any medication? They even don't take paracetamol. That's subside itself within 5 days. At the most, you can take paracetamol. That's most important things. That time, don't go so many medication. That's not going to help you. It's all psychological, cut and paste. One doctor started using these, another will cut and paste. Now, quacks, RMPs, they all are using this without thinking, without rational, without logic, without evidence. So first 5 days is not a dangerous. It does not require intervention, effective treatment, hospitalization, nothing. Stay at home, isolate yourself, don't spread your infection to your family members, maintain 2 meter distance, and use double mask. These are the things you have to do for 5 days. Use only paracetamol.
Dr. Saab, what would you call as day one of COVID?
Yeah, it is most common mistake we make to trace or to find out when it was day one. This morning I had the same problem with another patient. He went to a hospital. That time he wanted to have a ECG or something. That time he captured the infection from there. 2 days later, he has a mild symptoms. So I was going through him. I said, once you have a symptoms first day, the virus has entered at least 2 or 3 days before to these symptoms. So first symptoms could be malaise, sore throat, low-grade fever. So start focusing on that time and count 5-6 days from there. In
From the
most
day the symptoms appear.
symptoms appear, first
Okay,
symptom.
okay, thank you.
That will be day one. After that, most of the people after 3 days, 2 days, they don't have any fever. In some cases, up to 5 days, subside. Once it subside, you are at relax, not to worry much. In 5-10% cases, it may not subside. Continue, and then day 6, 7, they may start having more symptoms, different types, cough, and cough is uncontrollable, persistent. They may have a problem of shortness of breath. Now you have to become alert. It's now our immune system is starting overacting, it's causing damage. And if your oxygen saturation start dropping, it come around 93, 92, immediately think about, I can't delay it. My train will go and everything will go. So that's the right time. If your symptoms continue, temperature go high, oxygen saturation start dropping below 94, 93, don't delay, act. And at that time, with the advice of the right doctor, if you start steroid, fantastic, like you put water into the fire. One lady, she was in the village, her oxygen saturation went below 88, 89, and I was shouting on their family member, what are you doing here? Why don't you take to hospital? She will die. And the family member have no idea about oxygen saturation in the village, no idea about what's happening. And that time our immune system was firing and damaging lung. So I said, she will die. They said she is eating food normally. They have that kind of senses. If somebody is eating properly, sitting properly, and then I got so angry. I said, ask her to lying down on the tummy straight away, bring this tablet, and in the meantime find out oxygen. And then as soon as we gave a tablet, she was lying down on the tummy. She did not require oxygen. She did not require hospitalization. She recovered at home. Now the myth start from here because they are not highly educated. They started perceiving it was a miracle. It was a chamatkar, never happened before. And then I was saying, don't develop this myth. It is not me that I did it. It's a treatment. Everybody can get better. This is the right time I identified because oxygen was going down. Her lung was affected. If we don't prevent, check now, lung will continue to go down. Now we have recovered her back. She's having 98% saturation, perfectly fine. And the family members were saying, we thought now she gone. So what I want to give a right message, costly and precious message, around day 6 and 7. Don't miss this time if you want to save the life. Okay. Now going further myths are around different medication. Even the day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, people are running after wrong medication, remdesivir. If you go scientifically, there's no evidence it works. Plasma therapy, no evidence it works. There are only two life-saving drugs. Only two life-saving drugs. One is steroid, one is oxygen. Now myth is there in the hospital. They give three medication. When patient go to the hospital, oxygen saturation is low. They are giving remdesivir, plasma therapy, and steroid. If patient survived, they themselves don't know which one was working. Sometimes they misunderstood it was remdesivir, which is very costly, 30,000-40,000 injection for per, I think it's per injection, and then they give 4 or 5. So if 1.5 or 2 lakhs goes. Steroid is the cheapest medication, maybe 30-40 rupees tablet. So you have to give a right tablet, don't give cocktails, so many. Then you won't never know what is working, what's not working. That's again myth going on in every hospitals. A patient will go to hospital, standard list of the medication, they say this is our protocol, this is our protocol. And because of this protocol, the doctors are getting blind. They don't apply their own mind, they go by ABC. Protocol is saying at this stage this stage this stage this. If somebody made this protocol and he has no expertise, so how many lives we will lose because of this wrong protocol? Protocol is a guiding, it's not a forcing you to do. You have to apply your experience, you have to gain your experience, you have to gain your expertise, and use protocol as a guiding force. But don't be blind about these things. Since beginning we were saying, shouting, remdesivir has no life-saving effect, no life-saving effect. WHO said last year in September 2020, it has no life-saving, but people are not listening. So that's how blinds are led by blinds. We go, if there's a shortage of medication, we think this is the most important medication because it's a shortage. And that's how we are losing the life. So these are the myths around this. Myth around treatment, myth around diagnosis, myth around acting on the virus, not on the immune system. We go further. If you go to the hospital, you are already late, your lungs are already damaged. That time you struggle most. The hospital struggle most. Don't allow patient to go up to that level. Act day 6, 7 in those where lungs have been affected, immune system is hyperactive. 80%, 90% they recovered at home without any problems. It does not affect the lung in 80%, 85% people. It's a minor group of the people. And if these minor group of the people are identified early, we trained our doctors, then this is not a problem for the country, to be honest. We don't have a shortage of our infrastructure, ICU bed, oxygen. These will be manageable. It's another next part, if you allow me, we can go about black fungus. This black fungus has been highlighted in a manner that it has created fear into 90% people. That is a dreaded illness. Black fungus had been always there, will be there. Black fungus is a very common kind of fungus, everywhere available. It is available inside our body also. It is balanced. Our defense system does not allow this fungus to enter into or affect our body. It remains into our body itself, but it's controlled, checked. So black fungus, we have to understand in this manner, like a tuberculosis bacteria is lying inside our body. Everybody has it inside. But in certain situation, it can get activated. Once our defense system goes down, immunity goes down, we are under tremendous stress, we can develop tuberculosis. Not from outside, it's from inside. Secondly, if we are exposed to the environment where so many tuberculosis patients around, then we can have a excessive source of bacteria, and then it can enter into our body effect. Same thing is a black fungus. If your house, hospitals has a opportunity, moisturous environment there, lack of original light, sunlight, AC culture, lots of fungus will be there. They have a right opportunity to grow into that environment. And from there, the patient can pick up easily. If your instrument in the hospitals are contaminated by this fungus, you can inhale easily, and then you can be victim. So opportunity for the fungus to grow in the environment where patient is there, or opportunity in the inside, the person who have fungus already inside got activated because his defense system goes down, immunity goes down, lying in the hospital for weeks and weeks, immunity goes down. On oxygen in ICU weeks and weeks, immunity goes down. At that time, if diabetes is uncontrolled very high, the fungus has opportunity. Or we have imbalance. There are microorganisms inside the body, they keep balance with this fungus. And if we kill these microorganisms by excessive antibiotic, then imbalance took place and then it became more activated, black fungus. The one thing which caused me great deal of pain, which I don't agree this argument at all, that use of steroid has causes fungus, black fungus. That's not a logical or not a evidence-based, not a correct argument by the media. The media has spread it. Steroids are being used every part of the world at the moment for the treatment of corona. And there is no black fungus in any part of the world. So we call it labeling theory. Labeling theory means any dirt you can put on somebody who is clean, and then dirt, because of dirt, his reputation goes down, his label goes down. Somebody is a nice person, you just label it that he's a criminal. And it will, same thing now they have labeled black fungus to steroid. That's wrong. Steroid can bring down your immunity, no doubt about it, but there are large number of factors. Availability of black fungus around where you are. Your diabetes is highly increased, 400, 500, unstable. Long-term ICU bed. All the hospital instruments are contaminated. If you have underlying cancer, HIV, your immunity are already compromised. They all can contribute for the black fungus. It's not only steroid. Again, steroids are maximally used in other conditions, rheumatology. Somebody has got autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis. They use high dose of steroid for a long time. They never develop black fungus. Skin problems, they use steroid long term, never develop black fungus. HIV patient already have a low immunity, they don't develop. So in that situation, it's wrongly has been spreaded very fast, and the people are scared of taking the right treatment. Life-saving treatment, people are scared, and that we will lose so many life in that manner. So yes, you want to ask something?
Dr. Saab, you have used the word immunity very often throughout
Yes.
your conversation. And it so happened that when we asked parents that what are the questions that you wish to ask, this was immunity. And how do we build our children's immunity? How do we keep ourselves safe? This has been repeatedly being asked. And I think most parents and all of us are now, this word immunity is something everyone wishes to know more. And you yourself in your conversation, you've used it extensively. Would you just, before we go to other topics, if you would speak about immunity?
Yes. God has gifted ourselves a defense system within our body. This defense system protects us from outside infections. Bacteria, virus, fungus, all the time, thousands and thousands virus, bacteria, fungus are around us. They can attack on us, they can enter into our body, but this defense system keep on check. Don't allow them. So immune system has a ability to form antibodies, kill them. If any bacteria enter, they kill them. Our defense system. This our defense system remain active, alert 24 hours. Now what happened if you are not sleeping adequately for few days or 1 week, your defense system become little weak. If you are suffering chronically from the cancer or any other chronic disease, your defense system become weak. You are suffering from HIV, your defense system become weak because HIV virus attack on your defense system. It damage your defense system. Similarly, if you are on chemotherapy, cancer medication, they control or shut down your defense system. So it become weak. Natural immunity we can enhance or we can decrease. We can enhance if we do 30-40 minutes exercise every day. Physical exercise boost your immunity. Proper sound sleep keep your immunity well. Number third, reduce your stress lifestyle. It increase your immunity. And then nutritional part. Your diet should be balanced. Your diet should be rich of fruits, vitamins. Your immunity remain well. So children always have a better immunity than elderly people. Once you grow older, your immunity become weak. That's why elderly people are more prone to have a more damage through virus, infections, all these kind of illness. So now next, moving from this black fungus little bit more, I want to say not to fear about it. Every day we are losing more than 100 lives because of tuberculosis. We are losing more life every day through the cancer, accident. So black fungus is a very minor element. We need to pay attention how to prevent from it. So prevention is don't allow moisture in your house, in your hospitals. Keep original sunlight. Don't allow dust around your house or hospitals, like building constructions, dusty. Contamination of water. Water stagnation will increase fungus. So if water is somewhere lying for weeks and weeks, that invite the fungus to grow there. And all the instrument inside the hospital should be free from the fungus, should be clean, should not allowed to be contaminated by this fungus. So prevention is better. Then once you got into this, after that you have no choice, after you have to get a treatment. Yeah.
We did actually, one of our students was looking for liposomal. So as a COVID assistance team, I don't know how many calls we had made, 30 vials of this. So black fungus, and considering that they have just notified it as an epidemic, what you have said makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you. Please proceed, Doctor.
Yes. The next one is, you wanted me to touch about the third wave. Like this virus, every time it comes in this kind of pandemic, generally it takes on an average 2 years. It continue. It does not go before 2 years. Sometimes little longer. The best way to get rid of it is vaccination. Second is education for the patients, education for the doctors, so that they can act rightly. Third is these waves, every time it comes, every time we are better informed, better prepared, better we can manage them effectively. The myth has been spreaded very badly about third wave. I don't know who is behind it. That is going to kill the children. It's going to affect the children. It's going to harm the children. And I don't know who is spreading, why it has been spreaded in this manner. What is the evidence for this? What's the logic for this? This virus enter into our body through certain kind of receptors. These receptors are in our respiratory tracts. These receptors are in our heart, in our intestine. So virus cannot enter without these receptors. These receptors are very, very less in children. That's why it was not affecting children in first wave at all. Even second wave, children were recovering quickly. So if you have 1,000 receptors, children will have 10, 20 receptors. In adult, it can enter quickly. In children, it will take difficult time. So one is children are definitely safer in terms of the number of the receptors. Children are safer in terms of their immunity is always high. Only thing we can say that before third wave, most of the country or the developed world or Western world may be able to immune their elderly or adult. Children might not be immune, so they may be relatively more at risk. But it's not that only they will be affected, and that's the issue of concern. It's not. But yes, we have to prepare for children also. If we have a vaccine, we have to start it. And we have to protect children. We can't leave them completely exposed. But that's kind of myth has been spread. Maybe some kind of pre-planned agenda by any vaccinated company or somewhere it is out of the blue have been put into the mind of the children, into the mind of the parents. And every time we get this kind of the telephone call. It does not mean that third wave is for the children wave. It may affect children more, but it's not only exclusively for the children wave.
Then why should it affect children more? Because they are not vaccinated? Is that the answer?
Like I just said, America, USA has vaccinated 50% their population.
Yes.
Going for the children. Most of the Western world may be able to vaccinate their population before third wave, maybe 70%. And 70% is a very, very like effective way to deal with it. So in that situation, if someone is not vaccinated at all, has a less receptors, someone is vaccinated, so both may be affected. Even if you are vaccinated, you may be affected but less intensity. Children having less receptors is partly vaccinated. Partly they are immune in terms of, because they already have a less chance he will enter into the body because less receptors. So if children will be affected, it's not exclusively children. There will be adult also. Even those who vaccinated, they may be also. But I prefer that we should have a vaccine for children also. That should be there. Yeah.
So, Dr. Saab, you could tell us more about one is the vaccine, and that will be administered when it comes. But what else can parents and schools do? What since our schools are now closed and even exams have been postponed, there is so much fear. How does any individual prepare? What is the road ahead? What should we do now?
Yeah. We have to make it our part of life, using mask.
Dr. Saab, we started with ordinary mask and now the answer seems to be only double mask. So would you tell us what kind of double mask? What would you advise children? What kind of mask for them? Or is it better that they stay at home?
Yeah, this is transmitted through the aerosol from air to air. If somebody has been infected and sitting inside your house, he himself does not know, he is asymptomatic. But every time he is breathing, he is bringing out 18, 20 virus. And this virus, if it is AC room, is present there for hours and hours in that room. So anybody is not using mask in that room may be infected. So we need to take care of ourselves. We have to consider anybody coming to our house, maybe asymptomatic infected person. We need to maintain 2 meters distance. Number two, we need to use mask. If not double mask, single mask. Double mask I use where high risk. I'm going outside. I'm going in the hospital where patients are there. But in general, single mask in your within the family is okay. It's not a single mask prevent you for 60% and double mask prevent you up to 94%. Number three, AC room. AC room, the virus remain there inside. If you open the window 2-3 times, let it go out from there. So it is always useful. If you are traveling in the AC car with a driver and driver is new, you don't know, he may be a asymptomatic infected person. And you are in that car for few hours. In few hours, thousands of the virus will be in the car and you will have a virus going inside. So that time, if you're not using the mask, you have exposed yourself heavily. Similarly, going to a party, 50 people are there. And if one person is infected there and asymptomatic, he does not know, you don't know, then he may create infection into the 10 or 12 people. So avoid the mass gathering, avoid the social gathering. Where you don't know that somebody may be asymptomatic, be careful, keep distance 2 meters, use mask. These precautions have to be continued whether you are vaccinated, not vaccinated. This should become part of our life. We don't go out without using mask. I don't sit in the car without using mask. And I always keep 2 meters distance. This should become a part of our life until it has been checked effectively or eradicated completely.
My next question then comes from how do these waves come? Why should there be a third wave?
Yeah, it is like a waves come during, like we say, cyclone is coming, all these things. So rate of transmissions decide the waves. How rapidly it is spreading, we call it R number. We can calculate it that one person is making infected 2%, by 2% will make 6. So we calculate now the waves will hit us in 6 weeks. And that time what happens if you are putting water into the kettle and some water is coming out, but you are putting more water, it spill over more. So during the waves, we don't have adequate resources, adequate infrastructure, and the patients become more, doctor become less, bed become less. So that's how it become unmatched. And we needed urgent temporary hospitals, temporary bed, all these things. But we can prepare it in advance. We have a mechanism to slow down the waves. We have a mechanism to buy a time through the lockdown, through shut down the stadiums, schools where the crowding takes place. And then we can slow down, we can prepare ourselves, and then we can reduce the mortality.
Excellent. You've explained it so well. I did have a question from one of my colleagues who the physics teacher had written about the scientific basis and mathematical modeling, but so very simply, it's like what you explained about the kettle. That's an excellent example, Dr. Saab. Excellent. Yeah. So, Amita, would you like to ask a few more questions? Or, Dr. Saab, is there anything else that as educators and families that we can do? You've explained about immunity very well. You've explained how a culture of keeping oneself safe should be there. Anything else? And third wave, you've explained brilliantly. If we all adopt better ways, keep ourselves protected, then perhaps it is delayed. Anything else that a school should, or families or individuals should do?
Yeah, I want to say most important thing is, which I have learned, and I think it is a life-saving. My mission was at one point, I should save in the first wave 100 lives. Through my group, we managed to save more than few hundred lives. And this time I was struggling how to save thousands lives. The once we made a one video and we gave a message in day 5 and 6 more important. It was such a powerful message, went to more than few crore people. And the patients were able to take this message on board and they were using it and they were saving their life and they were contacting doctors. Now they are 5 and 6, do something. These symptoms continue, my temperature has gone down, getting right time treatment, life was saved. Same thing I want to say for the family. If one person has got infected in your family, he recovered. Use his experience, learn from him. If you ignore his experience, you don't learn, then it is kind of things you are closing your eyes. You may invite problem for yourself. So patient have to teach patients, doctor have to teach doctors that my patients are getting better by using this medication at this time. Patient has to tell that I saved my life because I reached doctor at this right time and this medication helped me. This medication saved my life. That way we have to work together and it's like a team. Family members, patients, those who recovered, they need to help others. And doctors who got a better experience, he need to train other also. Don't keep that experience to himself. He has to tell others. As many doctors he will train in that manner, we will save more and more life.
So, there is this question again that how to differentiate cough and cold from coronavirus symptoms, as children are usually susceptible. How will a parent know that this is COVID and not just an ordinary cough or cold?
Yeah, this is very, very, very common. At the time of corona waves, then it's like a corona is in air, corona is everywhere. We give first thought about it should be the corona. First we rule out the corona. Because which is more dangerous? A simple flu may not be dangerous, but corona, if we miss, we may miss the life. There were three family members, young children. They went on holiday to Uttarakhand and they were enjoying life. One of them had a flu and he phoned me. And I said, it could be corona. He said, no, last night I was doing skating and it's a cold weather. There was a river there. He was pushing me that I should accept his logic. It is a simple flu. I said, it may be, but I'm not convinced. I'm not happy. And you come to Delhi. They were from Delhi. Because if you are in that area, we may not be able to give you right time, right advice, right hospitalizations. And they came to Delhi, they tested, and because of one person, the three also got a positive. All have a corona. So in that kind of situation, not to worry about differentiation part. First rule out corona.
Excellent. That's excellent advice for all of us. Early testing, as you say, that if it is cough and cold. So, Dr. Saab, if you would tell us, what are these symptoms? I mean, now I think everyone knows, but कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं है जो छूट जाए. Fever है, cough and cold है, और आपने shortness of breath बोला. But then you said that happened later. Is there anything else that families should be alert, even with children?
I would say for first 5 days, you try to correlate it with sardi, dukham, bukhar, influenza. First 5 days. It can have a sore throat, it can have a fever, it can have a sneezing, it can have a malaise, it can have a temperature. All just correlate there. After that, pay attention that these symptoms continue or finish within few days. If finish within few days, it may not affect your lung now. Number two, if temperature goes high, more than 101, 102, more likely now our defense system is firing on our lung. And that time we have to shut down our defense system. So these are the most important key points we have to learn, and these are the key symptoms. After that, once it goes into the lung, other symptoms start: shortness of breath, oxygen saturation start going down, temperature remain high, Some people have a cough, and cough is dry cough, uncontrollable cough. They can't control it. Very bad cough. So these are the other symptoms when it affects the lung.
You're talking of the lungs. So there was a question here that would you advise people to go for a CT scan at the end or during? Is it necessary for all cases? How does somebody know whether their lungs are affected or not?
Yes, yes. There are three parts. We always take a three part. When we diagnose, we treat. One is clinical part. In clinical part, I told that oxygen saturation start going down, the shortness of breath, temperature goes up, symptoms are continue, patient started coughing. In that situation, clinically indications are lungs is affected. Now we go to the biochemical part. We do certain blood test. Blood test straight away tell us that lung is affected. Inflammation markers are high, such as CRP, IL-6, D-dimer, LDH, ferritin. So that's give us more strong evidence lungs are affected. How much lungs affected? How extent of the lung affected? We can get through HRCT, CT scan, or we can get an X-ray. So there are some argument we should not get HRCT exposure.
Yes.
I go by this argument because we are dealing with the human life. If there is the exposure and you lost your life, what's the point? You are fearful of the exposure for the future, but your life is gone now. So HRCT sometimes tell us so many good things that 25% lungs affected, 40% lungs affected. So that time it also tell us the affected lung is more likely to the coronavirus, not the atypical other virus. So in that situation, if we have opportunity, we have a feasibility, affordability, go for this HRCT. Otherwise, X-ray can be done. But X-ray does not tell us what we need to know exactly. HRCT tell us more information. Yeah. We have treated, our team have treated patients without X-ray, without HRCT, even without biochemical markers. In the village, there is no facility. Clinical judgment, we know that now lungs are affected, progressively affected, stop there, and money is there. So it depends upon your resources, feasibility, but combined these three will be the best.
So Amita, you had a question to ask? Amita, will you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. So, sir, firstly, there are some questions that some students and teachers have also asked. Like one of them is that after recovering from COVID, there has been an increase in the number of cardiac arrest cases. So, what is the reason for that, sir?
Once you recover from the COVID, don't think that it's over now. We say COVID warrior. Sometimes this is again a myth that they got a COVID test negative. They thought now I have win over the COVID and finally it's not the case. There's a post-COVID period may continue for 3 months. In post-COVID period, we pay attention to three body organs. One is brain, central nervous system. Second is heart, and third is our lungs. Lungs are recovering well. We have to do some kind of lung test, lungs exercise, lungs rehabilitations because it has been damaged. We need to have a checkup of our heart. Sometimes it can cause myocarditis, it can affect cardiac arrhythmias, and sometimes it causes decreased pulse rate, decreased blood pressures, heart attack. And in the brain, it can affect the brain in different ways. It can cause tremors, it can cause loss of taste, loss of smells, insomnia, and some people are having psychological problem, depression, anxiety, all these kind of. So there are the post-COVID clinic ongoing in different part of the world nowadays. We do all these assessment. So I would suggest if you have any kind of symptoms related to heart, GIT or brain. So it's better to have a checkup after recovering post-COVID phase. It continues for 3 months.
Okay. So mental fatigue, like I myself had COVID, and some of my colleagues they also had. So what we felt, we experienced that there is some sort of mental fatigue, or what I mean, we can say that the mind is not as active as it had been before.
Yeah,
So should we go for some medication for this, or it will? I mean, we can recover. It will
Yeah,
recover on its
Dr.
own.
Saab, then we'll make it wider. This question, आपने अभी कहा lung rehabilitation. So, is there a COVID rehabilitation process? Because so many people are affected. If you tell us, then we could share that, and it will help others. I think post-COVID rehabilitation.
yes. Post-COVID rehabilitation, the most common problems we have seen, the people are saying I'm weak, fatigue,
Yes.
able to do same thing what I was doing it. And some people continue to have a anxiety related symptom, anxiety,
Yes.
fearfulness, difficulty in sleep. So all these things will go, it's a time limited. It takes sometimes few weeks, maybe up to 3 months, number one. Number two, we have to do our body readjust. Our lungs are functioning only 60%. And we think I'm the back to normal. They go straight away what they were doing before. They don't realize that lung is not able to cope. Your lung function tests are not as they were before. It will take time. So do some kind of spirometer exercise. There are lungs exercise, breath holding exercise, and you can also check your lung function test. Similarly, other symptoms where some people may have a problem with their heart, they have to have a proper checkup, echo or ECG, and don't allow that accident can happen. Use adequate nutritional part, more fruit rich diet. You should not restrict to one diet. Proper diet should be there. Proper sleep should be there. All these have to be part of this post-COVID, the rehabilitation.
So it's
Yes,
been
doctor,
one of the
just one more thing, ma'am. Over here, I wanted to ask you that even after 3 months after recovering from COVID, can the people have after effects of COVID? Like I know a few people in my family only, some people are there. Earlier they were having a loss of sense of taste and smell, but now after 3 months after recovering from COVID, their sense of smell has aggravated so much that from everything that they are eating or wherever they are sitting, they are getting a very strong odor, very, very strong smell, acidic smell, and whatever they are eating, they are having a very rotten smell from that. So, like when we researched, uh, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes,
Yes,
you are. Hmm. So over to Dr. Saab. Yeah, we've got your
yes, yes.
question. I think.
Yeah, it is.
So
First
when
of,
we researched on the net, we found it is a disease called parosmia.
yes.
So is there any cure for that, doctor?
First of all, it is very rare, very rare. It's not 10% people are having or 20%. It's very rare, maybe 1 in 1,000 or maybe less. Yes, it recover with the time. It recover with the time, but some counseling will be helpful. Psychological counseling will reduce their stress, and make them to adapt with it. In some people, it may take time. I have seen up to more than 6 months, 3 months, but it will go away. Not to worry too much.
Uh, there is this question which almost everyone is asking and tweeting, and though we all know about droplets and aerosol, what is this hawa mein virus hai? Hawa mein kuch hai? What would that mean?
Yeah. What happened initially, because it was a new virus, WHO was misguided very badly. The information was coming from one part of the world, that was China. we were not getting right information or adequate information or accurate information. That information was limited to one city from the China. So initially information was that it is coming through the droplet. I'm coughing and the droplet came and that droplet is stick on my table or my computers, and then it is invisible, and when I'm touching my computer, it virus came on my finger, and I was rubbing my eyes, it went through the eyes or the nose. And we were acting on this for few months, 2, 3, 4 months. That was the horrible kind of mistake we made. And we were doing whole house hygiene, office hygiene, so much emphasis was given in this direction. But later on, it was found that it was so minor kind of droplets. It is coming out through when I am inhaling or exhaling, I'm bringing out so many viruses. And these viruses can go in the air for up to 2 meters. Maximum can go if there's a fast air, 6 meters. But the most important problem was when you are inhaling and exhaling in the AC room. And there are so many viruses are getting accumulated there. So I have 2 cases where husband was asymptomatic. He didn't know. Sleeping with the wife in the same AC room. Every night, thousands and thousands and thousands of viruses in the AC room. So wife got so high overloaded virus load in the same room. Nothing to do with the droplets. There's no droplets. And then she was only 31. And the virus load was too high. She had a persistent fever. The doctors failed to recognize this is because of the virus. They considered typhoid, they gave a heavy antibiotic, blah, 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 saying not responding. By the time HRCT was done, it was nearly 90% lungs were affected. She died. So what aerosol mean? If person who is infected nearby you, he is bringing out so many viruses in the air. Even if you went to buy something vegetables from the market and one person who had a virus, he was passing through and he was sneezing, thousands and thousands virus are in the air that time, and he passed away, he moved away, and you will contain these virus, you will contaminate it. You go into the park, same thing can happen. So in the air and the droplets, both are different. But this aerosol virus affect you more if you are in the air conditioned environment, because there is no window, no air exchange. So now emphasis has moved from droplet to the aerosol. So, yeah.
So, Dr. Jenner, this has been one of the most engrossing 1 hour that I've spent, and there was so much learning. We've all faced COVID for so long, and one thought that one knew, because our own COVID assistance team, amplifying requests, looking for things. In fact, we've spent time looking for remdesivir, for plasma. We've done all that, looking for donors. But this 1 hour has been the most enlightening. We do have, as we said, a COVID assistance team. And do you think that a school should equip, what should we do? Is there something that we should keep? We do have a concentrator and a cylinder in our infirmary, which we share, whatever resources, oximeter, bank, etc. we had made. Is that enough? And maybe a lot of learning from people, from doctors like you.
Most important is knowledge is most powerful weapon to save. So first, the right knowledge you need to keep. You need to spread it. Day 5, 6, more important, when oxygen saturation start dropping at that time. Don't allow your train to move on. You will miss the train, you will miss the life. Number 3, keep oximeter. which is essential requirement. You can't measure your oximeters, oxygen saturation. Yes, if you have a affordability oxygen concentrator, that always a safeguard keeping around you.
We've kept it in our school, a
That's right.
cylinder, and this which we lend when somebody wants it.
Yeah. I want to offer you one service from my side. I am so impressed by you and by your school. I will be more than happy to provide 1 hour from my side, weekly basis, daily basis, for your team. Anytime, any patients, any suspicions you have, just give me a ring. And
That's extremely kind and generous of you, Dr. Sagar.
I will guide you, and I will assure you nothing will go wrong.
Thank you so much. I will work on this with my colleagues, and we should have a good plan so that it is undisturbed, the hour, etc., and maybe a very flawless arrangement which doesn't impinge on you. Thank you so much.
One person who had a virus, he was passing through and he was sneezing. Thousands and thousands virus are in the air that time, and he passed away. He moved away. And you will contain this virus, you will contaminate it. You go into the park, same thing can happen. So in the air and the droplets, both are different. But this aerosol virus affect you more if you are in the air conditioned environment, because there is no window, no air exchange. So now emphasis has moved from droplet to the aerosol. So, yeah.
So, Dr. Jenner, this has been one of the most engrossing 1 hour that I've spent, and there was so much learning. We've all faced COVID for so long, and one thought that one knew, because our own COVID assistance team, amplifying requests, looking for things, like we've spent time looking for remdesivir, for plasma, we've done all that, looking for donors. But this 1 hour has been the most enlightening. We do have, as we said, a COVID assistance team. And do you think that a school should equip, what should we do? Is there something that we should keep? We do have a concentrator and a cylinder in our infirmary, which we share, whatever resources, oximeter, bank, etc. we had made. Is that enough? And maybe a lot of learning from people, from doctors like you.
Most important is knowledge is most powerful weapon to save. So first, the right knowledge you need to keep. You need to spread it. Day 5, 6, more important, when oxygen saturation start dropping at that time. Don't allow your train to move on. You will miss the train, you will miss the life. Number 3, keep oximeter, which is essential requirement. You can't measure your oximeters, oxygen saturation. Yes, if you have a affordability oxygen concentrator, that always a safeguard keeping around you.
We've kept it in our school, a cylinder, and this which we lend when somebody wants it.
Yeah. I want to offer you one service from my side. I am so impressed by you and by your school. I will be more than happy to provide 1 hour from my side, weekly basis, daily basis, for your team. Anytime, any patients, any suspicions you have, just give me a ring. And
That's extremely kind and generous of you, Dr. Sagar.
I will guide you, and I will assure you nothing will go wrong.
Thank you so much. I will work on this with my colleagues, and we should have a good plan so that it is undisturbed, the hour, etc., and maybe a very flawless arrangement which doesn't impinge on you. Thank you so much.